proceed with today's topic, that is organizations in Workday. All right. So yesterday we started talking about the navigations in Workday, and we talked about some of the key areas in the screen that we see. We see the Workday icon on the top left hand of our screen, and we said that we know now that it is equivalent to the home button that we see on our mobile phones, right? If you want to come back to this landing page or to the workbench, etc., before we start working on something else, we can click on the Workday icon. Then we have the search bar. In the search bar, we can search for objects that are present in Workday, right? We have to type the correct spelling, and we need to have the access to do that particular task. Then we will be able to find it. Then we talked about notifications, inbox, we looked at our profile, we talked about applications, and then we saw how we can add rows when we see a grid, how we can remove rows. And we also saw that we can configure the applications by clicking on this gear icon on our landing page, on our workbench. Right? This was the basics of navigation, and then we also talked a little bit about the 6 core concepts that we have in Workday HCM. We started with supervisory organizations, which is somewhat that we group the employees into a management hierarchy, who reports to whom kind of structure, and this is a required foundation for Workday HCM. This is the core, this is the base on which Workday HCM is built. Supervisory organizations. We'll talk about that in detail in tomorrow's session. Then we talked about staffing models. So it defines how jobs and positions are created and filled in a supervisory organization. We took the example of the sales director versus some sales associates. We tried to contrast the difference between the hiring of these two type of positions. Then job profiles is another very important core concept in Workday HCM, and it defines the generic features and characteristics of a job and the positions that are built from the job profile. And another core concept is, of course, compensation. So compensation that is being assigned to the employees, right? When we talk about compensation, we will talk about the compensation package, the grade profiles, different types of plans like allowance plans, bonus plans, commission plans, right, that can be assigned to an employee. And then we have security, right? And in security, we will talk about the security group, right? The group of users who need to have the same kind of permissions. We will talk about security policies, securable items. And the last core concept that we will talk about, and that is very important for Workday HCM, is business processes. The functional consultants will need to focus a lot on this particular topic, business processes. This is very important from the functional perspective. It's a sequence of one or more tasks that accomplishes a desired business objective. Right? So this is, we will talk about how to set up conditional logic, how to set up approval tasks, right? How to design the business process in Workday based on the requirements that we have from our business consultants, right? Or from the business analysts. We will create the business processes, we will optimize them, we will see which one can be marked as a completion step, and so on. So these are the 6 core concepts that we have in Workday HCM. So today we will start talking about organizations. But before we do that, any quick questions from yesterday's session? So this is the document that I'm sharing. So this is the detailed agenda. This is a more or less session by session agenda that we are going to cover. All right. So the first one is the introduction to Workday. This is the navigation basics we just talked about in yesterday's session. So just for everybody who are joining us today, this is the second session. But in the first session, we talked about just the navigation, and we talked about the 6 core concepts. So actually, we will start talking about the topics in detail from today's session. We'll start the detailed discussion from today's session, just for everybody's understanding. Okay, so how would we understand what we missed? Well, you did not miss anything. We just talked about the navigation. No problem. You can look at the recording from yesterday's session, or whenever we are going through the topics, I will anyway cover those things one more time. Okay, as and when we do the tasks, we will see the navigation again many times. So you have not missed anything. Okay, just for the sake of everybody. Okay, so we will start with introduction to organizations today. And then we will talk about supervisory organizations in tomorrow's session, supervisory organization hierarchy structure, and then we will talk about locations and so on. So this is a detailed agenda. I want you to keep the link handy. This will have all the 30 sessions and the agenda for all the 30 sessions. Now, what is important for this document is that next to each of these topics, there is the additional material or the prep work that I want you to do before each class. Okay, these consist of some videos from YouTube. These are very small videos, 5 to 6 minutes. What I want you to do is I want you to go through them before each class so that you are aware about the concepts that we are going to cover in the next session. Okay, and you can participate better in the class and you can like relate to what we are discussing. Okay, so this I want you to go through this prep work kind of every day before we start the next session. So this sometimes are a prep, like it is a day in advance for some of the topics, and for some of the topics it is on the same day itself. So that will act as a revision of the topics that we are covering in class. All right, so I want you to keep this document handy. If possible, download it, save it in your drive, save it in your local computer, and then refer to this as we progress in the class. Okay, so now let's proceed to the discussion on organizations. Now, when I say organizations, what is the thing that comes to your mind? What do you understand by the word organization? Anything, it can be anything, right? So just let me know, what do you understand by organization?
It can be a profitable organization or a non-profit organization.
Profitable versus non-profitable. Okay, interesting. Yes. A
Department.
company, a department. All right. Somebody said, Shweta says, a company at large. Okay.
A group of people working towards a goal.
A group of people working towards a common goal. Okay. Interesting. Yes. What else? Okay. Can a club be an organization? Just asking. Can a club be an organization? Yes. Can a union, can a labor union be an organization?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? Right? Can let's say a fitness club, or maybe a group of people who meet every morning for their morning walk, can that be an organization?
Yes. No.
People who share the same passion for music, can that be an organization?
Yeah. Yes.
Can be, right? So what is the underlying common factor between all these things, like from a company that you mentioned to, let's say, a group of people who share the passion for music? What is the common thing between all of these different types of entities, let's say?
Same interest.
Interest, yes, of course.
The purpose.
Goals, okay, they gather, right? I'm getting different words, very interesting perspectives. But yeah, it is a group of people with a common purpose. Yes, Prachi, thank you for the word. It organizes workers into groups that serve a common purpose. All right, these people are together for a common purpose, right? Maybe their passion for music, right? Maybe they play a particular sport. That's why they are in a club, right? Or so that is what it defines organization. We will not equate that, okay, organization means a company, organization means a department. No, it does not necessarily mean that. It can mean many different things. We will take organization for the literal meaning of the term, which is a group of workers that serve a common purpose, right? From Workday's perspective, we are mostly concerned with workers, right? Workers who belong to a particular enterprise, can be profitable organization, can be a non-profit organization as well. But we are mostly concerned with workers who are part of an enterprise. Okay, so that's why we will say organized. An organization is something that organizes workers into groups that serve a common purpose. Now, in your organization, like in the entity in the enterprise that you work for, what are some of the different groupings that you may have seen? One is department. Let me give you an example. One is a department where you are grouped into, right? Now, what is that department? And what is the basis of that grouping? What is the basis of that grouping in the department?
It's based on functional.
Based on functional, the functionality that you bring in, based on the type of work that you are doing, let's say, if you
Yeah,
put it that way, right? Let's say
yeah, yeah.
you are in the IT support, right? You are
Mm.
supporting the IT applications, so you are in the IT support department. Somebody is doing sales, they are in the sales department. Somebody is in the marketing, somebody is into leadership management, somebody is doing work of human resources, they are managing the human resources, so they are in the HR department, right? Depends on the type of work that people are doing. Based on that, they have been grouped together into individual departments. Correct? How, what else can be um, the grouping of these workers? One is department. What else?
Maybe location.
Maybe location. Correct. Yes. Location can be a way to group the employees. Okay, all employees of Bangalore, right? All workers of Bangalore, they are together. So the workers in Bangalore may be from different departments, right? Some may be from the sales, some may be recruiting, some may be human resources, some management, but they share the common thing, that is that they are all located in Bangalore. Correct? So yes, that
Yeah.
can be a way of grouping workers, a location. What else?
Unions.
Responsibly.
Unions, responsibilities. Okay, union is definitely yes, definitely yes. Now, when you say responsibilities, can you elaborate more on responsibilities?
Is designations like managers and manager.
Designations, managers, senior managers. Yeah, you may want to group them together. Yes, maybe all managers are part of a particular group. But how do you do that in a typical,
I
let's say,
think
enterprise?
it can be say like grade wise.
Grade
Hierarchy.
wise, yes, maybe yes,
Hierarchy.
hierarchy. But yeah, yeah. So we will talk about that. So all right, but I'll take it as a hierarchy, but we will talk about it again. But I just want you to give me examples from your organizations that you have
Legal
worked for.
entity.
A legal entity. Now, what is a legal entity?
Now, basically, that I work for Credit Suisse, we have several legal entities, but for the
Mhm.
location that I am there, we segregate the joiners as Credit Suisse Securities or Credit Suisse Services. So, services and
Okay.
securities are two different legal entities that we work
Okay.
across.
So when you say legal entities, so I'm assuming that this legal entity has, well, a legal entity. So I mean, they have been registered as a legal entity in their country of operation. Is that the right way to put it? Like let's say
Yes.
securities, like let's say you are in India. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a division, a legal entity like Credit Suisse Securities India Private Limited, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there may be the other one, maybe the operations. It can be Credit Suisse Operations India Private Limited, something like that. So maybe it's a registered legal entity, registered in the books of the government, right? That's why it's a legal entity, because it has a physical or a legal existence. That organization, the securities one, has a legal existence, correct? And maybe it files, it submits taxes and all. So can we equate that to a company? Because the company also has a legal existence. Is it the same as a company? I mean, it may not be, but just asking. Shweta, is that a company?
Not exactly, because each Credit Suisse will have different legal entities. Now,
Okay.
the same two legal entities are existing in Raleigh and New York, but the same
Okay.
don't exist in Poland and the Switzerland location.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
So in Workday, we call company as a legal entity. So that's why I was asking. So a company in Workday is equivalent to a legal entity. Just, I mean, for your just a heads up that we will see this term again. So yeah, anyway, so coming back to the discussion, a company can also be used to group the workers together, right? A company is the one which is, we will see that it's a legal entity, and the company is where your payroll is tagged, the workers' payroll is tagged to that particular entity, right? So people who are part of a company are again grouped together into a organization. Now, is it possible for an employee to be member of different organizations of different types? Is it possible?
Yes.
Possible, right? But is
Yes.
it possible that one worker is part of different organizations of the same type?
No.
No.
Like you're part of two departments, you're part of two companies, two locations at the same time.
No.
Not possible, right? So let's understand this part. This is a very, very important point that we need to understand. So you see, an organization typically represents how the work is done and how the workforce is structured, right? That is the main purpose of an organization. And it can serve many other purposes. And it is used across the entire platform, across the entire Workday platform, it is used. Now, many other purposes, when we say we can use the organizations for our reporting purposes, when we need to understand, okay, which are the workers in our London location, which are the workers in our Bangalore location. So we will create a report and we will get a list of all the workers there, right? It makes it easy for us to create reports based on organizations. It also serves a lot of purpose when we want to give, let's say, a special allowance to people in a certain organization. Okay, let's say for the Credit Suisse securities team, we want to give a special allowance, right? So since they are already grouped together as an organization, so it makes it easy for the compensation team to identify the group of people who are part of that particular organization and give them a special pay, right? So the moment the workers are grouped together, they form an entity called an organization, and it is useful to take actions on that organization because that will impact all the workers there, right? That is the whole purpose of grouping together workers, because in a large organization, if you have hundreds and thousands of employees, it is difficult to individually design or give anything to individual workers. Rather, if you group them together and form organizations or groups, then it is easy to manage the entire workforce, right? That is why we need organizations. And the point that I mentioned, that workers are tied to multiple independent organization types, each with a different purpose. Now, you can be part of a department, a company, a location, a cost center, a region, etc. Different types of organizations. But can you, as an employee, be part of two different departments at the same time?
No.
No.
No. Typically, no, right? Typically. There are instances where you may be, but typically, no. You're not part of two companies at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you see in this diagram also, one worker can be categorized in a supervisory kind of organization, in a cost center, in a region, in a company, and so on. And there can be an overlap. Like when we say, let's say people in a location, right? In the location Bangalore, or maybe in the location New York, are all the people in New York, are all of them from the same department?
No.
Not
No.
necessary.
Not
No.
necessarily, right? Not necessarily. They don't have to be from the same department, but still they are part of the same location. So there is an overlap. A person from sales is in New York. A person from HR is in New York. A person from IT is in New York. Now, does it mean that the entire sales team is in New York? Maybe, may not be, right? The sales team may be present in other locations as well. So you see, it is a complex overlap of different types of organizations. If you look at a worker's point of view, one worker can be a member of multiple independent organization types, each with a different purpose. All right. So let's go into Workday. Let's see this for ourselves about how we typically see the organizations. Okay. So let me move. Yes, you have somebody has a question.
No.
No. Okay. All right. So let me go into Workday. It keeps signing out. Let me sign back in and then we will see this for ourselves. We will look at some workers and we will see the organizations that they are part of. I want you to be able to identify. Okay. And then we will look at the different groupings that we have just to understand this point better. Okay. So after you log in, what do we need to do to start doing our work? After we log in, I mentioned something.
Start proxy.
You need to start the proxy. Okay, for everybody who was not there yesterday, who were not there. So we will, the moment we log into the system, this is how the system looks like. The moment you log in, there will be a search bar in the top middle of your screen. Okay, the tasks that we do, the reports that we run, the objects that we do, everything we will search and then execute. Okay. In Workday, we do not have a traditional menu-based approach. We do not have that. We do not need to remember a lot of menus. All right. So we will search for tasks. We will search for it and then we will do the particular action. There will be menus, of course, there are menus, but mainly the tasks that we will do, we have to search using the search bar. So the first task that we are going to do is we will become somebody as Logan McNeil. We will do our actions as Logan McNeil as part of this training. So the moment we log in, we will go to the search bar and we will start typing start proxy. Okay, start proxy. And then we will click on this start proxy. That will open up this particular screen which says start proxy. Now you will proxy as Logan McNeil, or you can also type L McNeil. This is what I did. You see, L McNeil. All right. L McNeil stands for Logan McNeil, and press enter. So that will search for Logan McNeil. Okay, once you have the name, click on OK. All right, so it will refresh and then it will say on behalf of Logan McNeil. On the top hand left of your screen, it will say on behalf of Logan McNeil, and there will be this black ribbon at the top. Okay, and you'll see Logan's picture on the top right of your screen. Okay, now let me give you a quick background as to why we are doing this. Why is it important, and do we do this always? Well, we are using a system that is called as the Global Modern Services Tenant, or a GMS tenant. You will hear this term over and over again. A GMS, or a Global Modern Services Tenant. Now, what that means is this is a training and demonstration environment where we have the data for a fictitious company called Global Modern Services preloaded. Okay, so Logan is an employee of that particular organization and she's the vice president of HR. And she has all the permission. I mean, she has the permissions to do everything. All the tasks that we are going to see, all the different reports that we are going to run. So Logan has the access for everything. That's why we use her ID to do and learn about the tasks. All right. Otherwise, the tasks are restricted by access. So if we proxy as someone else, we will not be able to see those other tasks. That's why we proxy as Logan. Right. So in the real environment, when we do our work for a different company, a customer organization, there we will not see Logan McNeil. Right. There we will see real employees based on that particular organization. Right, whoever is HR partner or security administrator of that particular company. So this tenant, this system has the data loaded. The employees are loaded. So loaded means they're already present in this particular tenant. So if you want to see something, if you want to run some scenarios, do some testing, we already have data available. Right? That's why we use it for our training and demonstration purposes. Got it? So this tenant is called a Global Modern Services tenant, or a GMS tenant. You may hear people saying, oh, log into the GMS tenant and do this. Log into this GMS tenant and perform this activity. So whenever it says GMS tenant, it means a training and demonstration tenant for Global Modern Services company. Okay? All right. Now, here we have and the moment you log in, if you are already logged in as Logan, if you are logging in and you see that, okay, it says welcome Logan McNeil, or it says, or you see her picture on the top right, then you don't need to do anything. You can start doing your activities. But if you are logged in as somebody else, you need to start the proxy. Okay, you need to start proxy in the search bar and proxy as Logan. All right, so now let's search for a worker called Anthony Rizzo. Okay, Anthony Rizzo. I hope he's there. Okay, no, not there. Let's search for Jack Taylor. What is happening? Okay, we have other people. Anyway, no problem. Let's go for, let's say Jack Martin. Okay, you're going for this worker called Jack Martin. Now, can you tell me what is the position, or let's say what is the job profile for this particular worker, Jack Martin?
Customer service associate.
What is the location?
New
New
York.
New
York.
York.
New York, right? He's New York. And if I click on the actions of this particular worker, in Workday, for everything we will click on actions. and we will go to something called as organization. Okay, let me click on organization. All right, system is a bit different. Okay, let's go to, one second. Let's go to this one, supervisory organization. Okay, it says test, hire, support. Let me click on the supervisory organization. Now, if I do that, it has this member, that is Jack Martin. Jack Martin is a member of this supervisory organization called Test Hire Support. Now, if I click on the location New York 1 to be more precise, if I click on New York 1, and then if I click on members, how many employees are there in this particular location?
49.
How many workers are there?
49.
49, right? You see, 49 members are part of this New York 1 location. Are all of them part of the same supervisory organization?
No.
No.
It's different, right? Let's say Andrea Sutton, she's part of KPXYZ. Anna Jenkins is XYZ operations. Ben Harris is DJXYZ, and so on, right? And each worker is part of a different organization. I mean, different department or supervisory organization, correct? They're not the same, but they are part of the same location, isn't it? They're part of the same location. So let's look at any other worker. Let's say Carol Hill. Let's look at Carol Hill. Okay. Now, if we go back to Carol Hill, you see that her location is New York, but let's try to find out which organizations she is part of. Okay. So if I go to, let me go to worker history. Okay, she was hired. Just let me check a few things because this tenant seems to be a bit different. When I say a bit different, there may be some issues with Logan's access for this particular tenant. So just give me 1 second. Okay. Let me click on job. All right. So if I go to job and then if I go to organizations, all right. So I went to organizations. You see that this worker Carol Hill is part of this particular organization, and this organization type is supervisory. Now let me see if I can go to executive management. Okay. Now I will look at Teresa. Okay, Teresa Serrano, or let's go to Melissa Martin. Okay, I'm just looking at some random workers, Melissa Martin, and then I will go to job and I will look at the organizations that she is part of. Now, can you tell me what is the company that Melissa Martin is part of?
Global Modern Services.
Global Modern Services Inc. USA, right? That is the company that she is part of. Now, what is the region that she is part of?
Headquarters corporate.
Headquarters corporate. And what is the department or the supervisory organization that she is a part of?
That's executive management.
Executive management, right? You see, the same worker is part of different types of organizations. She's part of a company hierarchy, location hierarchy, okay, a region, a supervisory organization, a regional hierarchy, and so on. So the same worker can be a part of different types of organization, each with a different purpose.
Krish, how is supervisory organization different from company?
We will talk about that. We'll start talking about each of
Yeah.
these organizations in detail from tomorrow. Okay. These are different ways of grouping the workers, right? A location is one way of grouping, a region is one way of grouping, a supervisory is one way of grouping. They're all different ways of organizing your workers. Okay. So we will talk about that in the next few sessions. So a supervisory is more or less equivalent to a department. I will not say is equal to a department. It is more or less similar to a department. A company is a legal entity, different purposes, but they serve the same underlying functionality in that they are used to group together the workforce, okay, into different smaller groupings. Now, Shweta asks, like, what is a tenant? Okay, a tenant is an instance of the Workday system. Okay, it is a standalone system where you have your company's information that we will configure and use for our specific purposes. All right, it is a dedicated instance of Workday. Got it, Shweta? It's a dedicated instance of Workday. Now, when you hear the word tenant, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Who is a tenant, or what is a tenant? Or yeah,
Basically, when we rent a house, the person
correct.
who's renting the house is
It's
tenant. I
called a
mean,
tenant.
that's what comes.
It's called a tenant, right? So as a tenant, what are you getting? You are getting the permission to use that particular property for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Is that
Yes.
what happens? Right.
Yes.
So here also it is the same thing. The companies who are subscribing to Workday, they pay a subscription fees, kind of the rent, and they get the permission to use the tenant for a period of time. The moment they think that, okay, I do not need it anymore, they give it up. Workday recycles it and gives it to somebody else. All right.
Yeah.
So
Krish,
that
Thank
is
you.
why we call it as tenant. Now you might be wondering, like, okay, oops, I have all my confidential data, let's say worker information, SSNs, etc. Then what if I give up my tenant? Will Workday give the same tenant to somebody else? Well, the answer is no. Right? It is just an instance. The moment you give up your subscription, they will clear it off, delete it, create a new one, give it to somebody else. But the basic functionality is, since you are paying the subscription fees, you are getting the authority to use this particular system for a period of time. That is why Workday calls it as a tenant. And another thing, as a tenant, when you move into a house, what are the things you can do? Like, you can bring in your own furniture, right? In most of the cases, you can bring in your own furniture. You can decorate your house or the property that you are getting as per your wishes. Like, you can put up your pictures, you can maybe put in your curtains,
Yes.
arrange the furniture as per your taste and as per the layout of the house, right? You can do that. But can you change the location of the windows?
No, you cannot.
Can you change, like, where the toilets are, or can you change where the kitchen is? Like, you move it from
Yeah.
the east side to the west side. Can you do that?
No, we cannot
No.
make any structural changes if you are a
Correct.
tenant.
Very rightly said. You cannot make any structural changes to the overall property. You have to, and also, if the house is in a part of a society, you have to abide by certain rules of that society, right? Like, let's say no loud music in some properties, pets are not allowed, and so on. So there are some rules of the society, so you have to abide by that. So why am I saying all these things? The things are, in Workday operates in a certain manner. That is what we will cover as part of this training. We will understand how Workday works. That's what will help us to be able to configure Workday as per our business requirements. Okay, so Workday will allow you to do something like, you can create your own organizations, create your configurations, locations, hire workers, and so on. But you cannot make structural changes to the way Workday operates. right? You have to use a supervisory organization to hire workers. That is a given. You have to do that. You cannot create, I mean, you cannot change that. You have to hire workers in the supervisory organization, right? That is something that has to be done. The way the reports are written, the way the locations are created is standard across all the systems all over the world. Different companies, doesn't matter. The way Workday works is going to be the same. That's why Workday again calls it a tenant, because as a tenant, you can do a few things. You can do customization as per your requirements, but to a certain extent, right? You cannot change the way Workday operates. Okay, clear about what is it? So a GMS tenant or a GMS instance is a dedicated tenant where you have on training data. Okay, it has the data loaded for, like I said, Global Modern Services Inc. You see the company here, Global Modern Services. It has the data loaded for that company. Okay, and we will use that as reference. We can create our own organizations. You see many people have created location hierarchies and so on. We will create our own organizations, but we will continue to use the data for Global Modern Services, okay, for our training and demonstration purposes. All right, now let's go to this particular organization, which is the Executive Management Group. Now, if I go to the related actions of this particular organization, you see for every single thing in this particular screen, they are in blue color, right? And blue color we know from our browsing in like Internet Explorer and Safari and etc. If it's something in blue color, that means it is a link. You can click on it and do some action. Right here also it's the same thing. If it is a blue color, you see the moment I move my mouse pointer next to it, it changes, right? And it gets underlined just like a link. So you can click on it and you can navigate to that particular object. Like let's say I want to see more details about this particular position, so I can click on this position and navigate into it. Let me do that. So I can right click and see this in a new tab. This is the best practice. Whenever you are opening up a link, try to do it like this. Right click, open, see in a new tab. What that will allow you is you will not lose your present screen. You can continue to be in the screen and you can open it up in a new tab. Okay. Otherwise, you have to keep going back and forth. Not a very good way of navigation. So if you want to open something, right click and open in a new tab. So you see, the moment we let me close this. For each and every object, the moment I'm moving my mouse next to it, you see this orange color dot appearing, this orange box with 3 dots, right?
Yes.
It appears. You see, typically it doesn't appear, but if I move my mouse pointer next to an object, it appears. Initially white with 3 dots, and then if I highlight it, it turns orange with 3 dots. This we call it as a related actions. We will click on this and you see a whole menu of options will appear. Okay, the different things that you can perform on this particular object, right? So for each of the objects, each of these links, depending on the type of object that it is, it will give you some options. You see, for this particular thing, the phone number, it gives me only 3 options. For, let's say, a location, San Francisco, it gives me a few more options. But depending on the type of object that we have and depending on your access levels, whatever you are authorized to, you will see the options. And we can take some action, we can do some activity straight away from here. We don't need to type a task and do something. If you are seeing it on the screen, if you are allowed to do it, you will be able to take some action. So we will see this as and when we do our work, we will use a lot of these like related actions functionality. This helps navigate the system much faster and very easily, right? That's why people love Workday, because of the ease of navigation, ease of taking actions. Let's say I want to take some action on San Francisco. I don't have to search for the location and do it. I can just do it from here itself, right? That's the power of Workday. All right, so now here also in the executive management group, this is a supervisory organization, right? The type of organization is supervisory. So if I go to the related actions, I will be able to see the hierarchy, right? The navigate hierarchy. I can see who reports to whom kind of structure. Okay, you see executive management, and under executive management there are other organizations like finance and administration, global HR, human resources, information technology, right? Operations, sales and marketing, right? There are different types of organizations that are reporting to the executive management group. Okay, so I can navigate. Let's say I want to go and dive deep into finance and administration. I can click on this tile, okay, and then it will show me the different organizations that are subordinates of finance and administration. What are the different organizations? Financial planning and analysis, legal, office of the controller, risk management. Right? And again, Office of the Controller, if I drill down further, you would see that there is a corporate accounting and SEC reporting. Right? So these are some of the different departments which are reporting or rolling up to finance and administration. What about, let's say, human resources? If I drill down into human resources, okay, so under human resources, you have many wealth of knowledge, HR services, benefits, right? What about payroll, recruiting? They're all different departments that are all rolling up to human resources, right? So this is how we can view the hierarchy of the organization. We will again see this when we do each and every individual organization type. But today I just wanted to show you that an organization is something that exists in Workday, and within an organization there are many workers that are grouped together. Now again, now we are looking at a supervisory kind of organization, right? Executive management. Are all the people in executive management based in the same location?
No.
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 No, right? So Barbara is in Chicago, Logan is in San Fran, Melissa Martin is in Boston, and so on. So it goes back to our point that workers are tied to multiple independent organization types, each with a different purpose. And there can be an overlap of workers in the different organization. It doesn't have to be that all workers in the supervisory are part of the same company. All workers in the supervisory are part of the same location. No, there can be an overlap. Okay, I would let this point to sink in before I proceed further. Any questions in this particular point?
Uh, Krish, in the previous, the organization structure, you mentioned different names, and all of them were reporting to Logan McNeil. So,
Yes.
doesn't that conflict the statement that the same Logan
Oh,
McNeil
when I was
reporting?
showing the organization hierarchy,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, well, something is messed up in this particular system. Somebody has made some changes to it. Typically, that is not how organizations are structured. In each and every department, we will have a separate manager. We will create
Okay.
our structure, and there it will become a bit more clear, right?
Okay.
So when we create our own hierarchical structure, somebody has messed up with this hierarchy. So we will not be too concerned about this right now. We will create our own hierarchy. No worries.
You said GMS is the system that we use here. So what are the
Yep.
other systems that typically use other than GMS?
For training purposes, there are typically, I would say, three different. Let me count. One is global modern services that we are using this tenant. There is another one that is called Alma Mater University, or AMU, that is typically used for Workday's university customers. There are a lot of universities who have implemented Workday. Okay, so for their training purposes, a tenant called AMU is used, Alma Mater University. That is also a fictitious university, and the data for that university is present in the tenant. Okay, and then there is another training tenant designed for Workday's government customers, like your municipalities, your different departments within a government, like maybe the defense, or maybe the public utilities, the healthcare. So for them, there is a special kind of tenant that is called the GOV, or the Green Oak Valley. Okay, that is again very similar to global modern services, but it has the organizations, etc., which are more in line with the government organizations. Okay, so those are two other kind of training tenants that we have, an Alma Mater University and Green Oak Valley. Okay, so these
Thanks.
are training tenants. But apart from that, there are when we talk with customers, there will be different tenants. There is a video in YouTube. I'll give you the link, and you need to go through that to understand what are the different types of tenants that we will see in the real world. Okay, what is a production tenant? What is an implementation tenant? What is a sandbox? What is a sandbox preview? So you will get to know more about those terms, but we will talk about that later. We'll cross the bridge when it comes, right? Not right now. Right now, we are just starting our journey in Workday. We are looking at the look and feel of the system. We are understanding some of the basic. I will tell you all those things in due course. Okay. All right. So